Hello everyone and welcome back. So today's video is going to be a side-by-side comparison on the Rimmel Stay Matte Foundation and the Rimmel Lasting Finish Matte Foundation. I have decided to do a side-by-side comparison because after wearing them both separately quite a few times, I've come to realize they are actually very similar, and so I thought I would do a half face comparison with check-ins throughout the day just to see if they are pretty much exactly the same thing, because pretty much they have almost exactly the same claims, and to me they almost sit on my face exactly the same way. So here we are. I'm going to tell you which one I like better, which one works better, and basically is this going to be the new version of the Stay Matte, because this Lasting Finish foundation is a relatively new one. I actually did a first impression on this, so that will be up before this. The link will be in the description box down below, so please feel free to check it out. I do actually like both of these foundations and I do recommend both of them, so it's not a comparison of, you know, I hate this one, do I like this one? It's not it. I just want to show you guys which one I think is better, which one works best for me, and just a comparison to see if they are exactly the same thing. So this is not going to be like a first impression because I've worn both of them before. However, the claims on the Rimmel Stay Matte are that it is a feather light liquid mousse that blends flawlessly for a natural looking finish, all day shine control. It is silky smooth, leaves a perfectly matte baby soft finish, lightweight texture that is not heavy or greasy. On the Lasting Finish foundation, it says it is a long lasting, lightweight, ultra comfortable powder finish formula that leaves the skin truly matte, feeling soft, and provides a perfectly flawless base. So essentially they almost have exactly the same claims. To apply both of these, I have my Chi Chi sponge here. It's already dampened and wet. It is perfectly clean. It's just stained because I use a hell of a lot of really matte foundations. I'm going to use the same products that I use almost on a daily basis, things I know I really like. For concealer, I'm using the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind, things like that, because I know how they work on my face. I'm not wearing a primer because I don't really wear primers on an everyday basis. The only time I wear a primer really is in the winter, just to add some moisture, or if my pores or massive texture is looking really bad. So at the moment I'm just wanting to see how these last. I also have extremely oily skin. Here we go. I'm going to apply the normal Stay Matte on the left side of my face, and I did just pump out that much. That's honestly probably way too much, but we'll see. So I'm going to apply that on this side of my face. See, that was very quick, easy and simple to blend into my face. It looks really nice and smooth, except for a little bit around my nose, but you know, I can never get that looking good. It even looks really nice on my forehead. It just looks nice in general. I wouldn't say it's the most absolute smoothing foundation I've ever used, but it does look really nice. I'm going to just try and build up a little bit of coverage right here. And other than that, I would say it is pretty much full coverage. However, I would say if you are someone that has a heck of a lot of acne or rosacea or something like that, it may not be full coverage on you. As you can see, pretty much I just have a red face and some scarring. That's about it at the moment. My skin has cleared up a hell of a lot. So I'm more doing this just to see how they last on my skin, not really to prove the coverage, because I have pretty much good skin anyway. But that just blended in super quick, super easy, and it just looks really nice and flawless. Once I have the other side on, I will give you a close-up. Okie dokie, so now it's time for the Lasting Matte on this side of my face. We go, both foundations are now currently on my face. I do have to say I found it much easier to get full coverage with the Stay Matte. It was actually a bit quicker to blend in, and it just, I don't know, just felt like it was tiny bit better to blend into my face. This time with the Lasting Matte, I did not notice that like greasy, oily feel that I have noticed in the past. I noticed that in my first impression. It has caked into my eyebrows ever so slightly more, but it is still nothing compared to what other foundations do. I don't know if this is because these ones are mousse. I don't have any other foundations apart from these two that are like mousse texture, so that could be why. But I mean, things like my Maybelline Matte and Paula, stuff like that, they always just cake into my eyebrows. I found both of them to be very easy to blend into the skin, and as of right now, sitting right here, they actually look identical on my face. They both look nice and smooth. This one just has to set down a little bit more, but they both look nice and smooth. Neither of them are really caking up anywhere except for the very edges of my mouth and in my little dent here where I have my massive scarring. But over my scarring, they both look relatively smooth. They are both pore blurring. This one doesn't really claim to be pore minimizing, but it looks exactly the same. Color wise, it is, this Lasting one's ever so slightly more yellow, slightly darker, but I think once I get my powder and concealer and everything on, you're not going to notice. Okay, so this is my forehead. This is the Stay Matte side. This is the Lasting Matte, and as you can see over my texture, they both actually look pretty much the same. They are both starting to sink into that like expression line I have there, and I have to say mousse texture foundations sink in there a lot worse than what like liquid foundations do. But at the moment they both look exactly the same. And then here's like my cheek area. This is the Stay Matte side. As you can see, it just looks nice and smooth, almost matte skin like. So it's nice and matte, but it's also skin like, so it's not looking dry, it's not looking overly dewy, it's not clinging to anything drastically weird. This side is exactly the same. It's not clinging to my scars or anything. I don't really have any dry patches. My nose is actually looking okay for once. Inside the crevices here, I ignore it because it goes so deep in there. I pretty much sometimes can't even get concealer there. And here's my chin. It always looks cakey in here. Just that little bit there. Every foundation does because I have such bad texture there. And it just looks a bit heavy on my chin here, but foundations always do. My chin just in this little rectangle part here always looks really bad, and I can't figure out why. And it looks a tiny bit heavy around here, but that also could be because I actually have quite a lot of hair there, but I'm not complaining. And usually this all goes away a little bit once I put powder on. But yeah, as you can see, it's not even fully caked into my brows, which is like amazing because normally my brows by now look like they're snowy blonde because I have so much foundation caked on them, but it just looks really good. So I'm going to actually go do the rest of my makeup right now. The time is currently 11:22, so I'm not going to do a huge massive check-in. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see how the day goes, but I'm just going to wear these for a few hours and see if they wear identical. I have to say at the moment the Rimmel Stay Matte has gone more matte than the Lasting Matte. Both of them have a very slight tackiness. If you have dry or normal skin, I don't think you'd need to set this, but because I'm so oily and things like that and stuff just does not blend, I have to set my face. Like usual in like first impression type settings, I'm going to use my Model Co Invisible Matte Powder. I'm not baking today just because I don't want to, I just want to see how these last on their own. And to be completely honest, from what I've noticed with both of them, I actually prefer them just set with a pressed powder, not actually baking. Okay everyone, so it is now like 20 to 6, so I think I've had this foundation on for long enough just to get a gist of which one is different slash which one do I prefer. The answer, they're exactly identical. In my mind, from my experience, from the notes I have written down and from how they look on my face, they are exactly identical. The only thing I have to say that is the difference between them is the Stay Matte one is feeling a bit heavy around this area now that my oil is starting to come through. I'm going to take my glasses off, and I know I have that extreme marks on my nose, but I basically get that every time, no matter what foundation or concealer I wear. Both sides look identical. On the camera, from what I can see in my viewfinder, they look exactly the same. My bronzer and blush may have stayed on the Lasting Matte one slightly more, but that also could have been because I applied more to this side. I always have issues getting it to look nice on this side. I am oily, like I am the same oily on both sides. It's still sunk into my line on my forehead on both sides, not as bad as it has before, but both sides look exactly the same. So I actually sat here and wrote some notes. So this side's the Rimmel Stay Matte, this side is the Lasting Matte, and pretty much all these things are exactly the same. So they both blend extremely well. They look both perfectly smooth on my face. They're both matte. Believe it or not, I've had some foundations that are advertised as being matte that are not matte. Both foundations are 30 mils, which means like that you get the same amount of product in each. Both of them set down to sort of like that powdery finish. I put a powder on top anyway just because I'm so oily. Both of them are not completely transfer proof. They will transfer off if you are eating, say, a big hamburger, and if it touches down here it will transfer. I've had some come off on my chin from when I was eating lunch. Things like that. Obviously you can see it removed the little, like where the pieces from my glasses are. Both are lightweight, so I mean, even though my face around here is feeling a little bit sticky, it's still completely lightweight. Nothing compared to what other foundations feel like. To me, it's not really whether or not the foundation is lightweight. The thing that affects me the most is like dewy foundations tend to feel really sticky when my oil starts coming through. So even if I'm oily here, like down here will start and feel sticky because it's almost like it's absorbed all the powder and it will go back to being like just the foundation. They don't cling onto dry patches. Not that I really have too many, but I mean, they don't cling onto my texture. It's not emphasizing the texture of any of my scarring. In fact, it's probably smoothing over the top of it. It's not emphasizing the texture on my forehead. It's clinging a little bit here, but everything clings there. No matter what I do, I can't get here to be perfectly smooth, but from what I can see, it's not making it extremely worse. Like some people, that would be their absolute worst clinging there. To me, that's like the best. I have never seen that look so good. Both of them are in squeeze tube packaging, which is something people may have to think about. I don't know. Squeeze tube packaging to me is probably the best because you can just, you know, squeeze out as much as you want. This one of course is black, this one is white. They have different packaging so you can tell the difference between them. Both of them are affordable. The pricing of the Rimmel Stay Matte at full price, from what I can see, is approximately $14.95, and the pricing of the Rimmel Lasting Matte is approximately $17.95. Obviously this will sometimes vary from store to store, and also depending on sales and things like that. Obviously when you get them on sale they're cheaper, but that is the general price that I can see. They both smell exactly the same. They both have that, what I call, slightly perfumed, slightly like powdery scent. And yeah, the only thing that's slightly different is the lasting finish has a slight more flashback than what the Rimmel Stay Matte has. So this one has a tiny bit of a flashback, but this one actually has quite a bit. This shade is actually slightly darker than my face. You can slightly tell. I like it to be darker because then I don't look as ghostly, but this does actually have a flashback to the point where it makes my foundation look twice to 3 times as pale as my neck. So it has quite a bit of a flashback. This one has a little bit, but it matches me a bit more, so I find that, you know, that flashback is not as bad as one that's already too dark. So if a foundation's too dark for you and then has a horrendous flashback, then you know it's gotta really bad flashback. So I will keep both of them, and I will like obviously use both of them. I don't know if I actually like them both enough to fully repurchase, but that decision will be made by the end of both. But I do like both of them, I recommend both of them, and that's about it. So these products and that, as well as everything else I was wearing, will be listed down below, so please go check it out, along with my social media sites. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.